Judge, the lawyers in Shelby County, when you were on the bench, I think really enjoyed being in your courtroom. And one of the reasons that they enjoyed being in your courtroom so much was because there were at least moments when everything wasn't taken too seriously, and there could be some enjoyment in the courtroom among the lawyers and with the judge.
I think I know what you might be getting at.
Tell us about Millie.
Well, Millie is my pride and joy, still going strong out there at my house. She weighs about 7 or 8 pounds. She's a little white poodle, toy or whatever you call them. I don't, teacup. She's supposed to have been a teacup, but she ended up a big cup. She, I brought her up from the time she was born. I brought her down to the courthouse every day and put her under the bench, and she'd lay there. And of course, every now and then she'd come alive and bark. And sometimes I'd have the witness on the stand. I remember one fat lady was sitting there, and I said, "Ma'am," said, "what was the color of the light when you went through?" She says, "Oh, it was green as it could be." And I nudged old Millie, and Millie says, "What?" I said, "You want to reconsider that?" She jumped about out of her skin almost. But my favorite trick with Millie was that it'd be a tough time. Everything would be pressure packed. Be a little break, and a jury would go out and so forth, and they'd be kind of meandering around. Maybe one of them would want to ask me about such and such. And I'd put Millie up on the bench and just kind of let her stretch her legs. Then I'd take her and I'd put her down, and I had underneath there, I had a golf club cover that was Millie's size. So I'd say, "Millie, slow down. Be quiet, Millie. Stop running around there. Stop chewing on my shoe." And I'd finally say, "Well, that's the end of it." And I'd pick that thing up, throw it out in the crowd, you know. People would go for it like it. Some of the lawyers almost broke their arms. I got to where I had to cut it out because I worried about somebody having a heart attack. You can imagine thinking a live dog is coming flying at you. But I took my work seriously, but I did try to have some levity, and I also, in a lot of cases down there, made an effort, and maybe it's led to my mediation activities. Maybe it's because I was lazy, but I'd have these idiotic cases down there where it was going to be a big, long battle, and the jury would be involved, and this and that. And it was going to be a matter of whether they're going to get 8,000 or 12 or 20, you know what I'm saying? And I'd say, "Folks, let's slow down here. Let's go take a little stroll and talk about it," and they'd come back in the background. I said, "Look, you got to be wanting to pay this person something." "Well, yes, sir, but they want way too much." "Well, what is it?" You know, and we'd kind of shoot the breeze a little, and I'd send them out to the hall. Say, "Well, look, I'm going to let the jury go eat lunch, and we'll see you at 2 o'clock. And sometimes they'd settle it on their own. Maybe I just didn't want to sit there and listen to tripe, you know, for a day or two. I'm not talking about the major matters. I'm talking about those kinds of things. I never even thought about mediating a case when I was practicing law. I never even dreamed of getting intervention or whatever. I'd call my lawyer opposite, and I'd say, "I'll pay you $15,000, or I'll take $15,000. And they'd say, "Well, you're crazy as a loon. We'll offer you this or that." We'd go back and yap and scream, and as the court got down to the trial, everybody get up as high and as low as you could go. And then if we settled it, we settled it. If we didn't, we tried it. There wasn't anybody else to get involved, just the 2 lawyers. I found out that was idiotic. We have settled cases up in the 4 million area, cases that I didn't dream would be settled. I've settled cases just the other day where a guy was a thief and was jumped on by the guard, and his hip was broken, and I thought, well, who'll pay him anything? Well, they settled it, got rid of it. It was a nice settlement for everybody when it turned out, because they really had overdone it. I mean, they had just, instead of grabbing him and taking him to his knees, they grabbed him and took him to his knees, and then 2 people jumped on him. You can't do that. So even though he was a criminal, he would have come out. So I've gotten into this mediation, and the good part about it, the best part about it, is I'm still dealing with the top-ranked lawyers. I'm still dealing with the practitioner, the trial lawyer, and on both sides, I have the top, the cream. And so there's not a lot of fooling around about it. There's not a lot of, who shot John. Everybody has their beliefs about the case. And if they mean to settle it, if they want to settle it, if both of them want to settle it, we'll settle it. We've come awfully close sometimes and broken down, and then later they've settled it for something right in the vicinity. But it has turned out, in my opinion, to be a bonanza, not only, frankly, for me and others that are now doing it, but it's turned out to be a bonanza for the court system and for the lawyers. They are freed up from cases that would have lasted a month, 3 weeks, or what have you, and a big expense of that, and they're able to get rid of that case in an afternoon for nothing, a pittance. And I think it's the best thing going right now. And of course, all the judges down there, I mean, they just in a hog heaven, because there are an awful lot of cases being mediated now and settled.
Now you've been doing this for 5 years, I believe, Judge.
Well, since '96, so about 4.
4 years.
Yeah,
and
whatever.
Why did you leave the bench?
Well, again, as I say, a term limit wasn't a matter of term limits. I frankly just got tired. I don't guess you'd say bored, because every case was different and so forth, but I'd done it. Somebody told me mediation was good. I think, again, my friend Judge McPherson, and he had gotten into it. I had a chance to go out to mediation school, which is held by, strangely enough, out in Reno, Nevada, at the University of Nevada, where I always like to take every chance I could go free. So I went out and enjoyed it. I thought that's something I believe I can do. And I've enjoyed it.
You have the reputation as being one of the best mediators, certainly in this part of the country. And you've told us about being in the mediation school. Do you do it like they taught it, by the book?
No, I didn't. In fact, the people out there told me if there was any grade to be given, I was an F man. I was up there with an ex-chancellor from Nashville. He'll tell you about the deal. What was his name? Yeah, he was...
That'd be Bob Brandt?
It sure was. He was in my group, and a wonderful guy, but a different guy. He took life seriously and did all the right things. Of course, in that school, everything is solved by some tricky thing. You have a big case involving a dog bite, and they decide that what they'll do is they'll build a wing on to the pound and name it after that, whatever, that injured party. It's different than the real world. In the real world, it's avarice. Many times, it's simply avarice versus Scroogeness. But every now and then, in fact, in one of the cases we had here, we came up with an idea. I'm not sure who it was, but it came up with an idea of putting some money in a trust fund to be used for education for a public school child. That settled the case, about $200,000, and they didn't want to spend it, and they wanted it became a big issue, and that solved it. So
I believe, actually, Judge,
I believe you're involved in that
case.
Yeah, I believe so.
What do you consider to be your best technique as a mediator? Why do you think you're successful where some aren't?
Well, I don't know. I try the best I can to try to come up, after going back and forth, with some idea of where the defendant will go or thinks would be a reasonable settlement, and where I think the plaintiff would go with a reasonable settlement. If they're way out here somewhere in Never Never Land, and they're not going to jump to that figure. They don't want that figure even thought about. But just by my experience and by my trying to read the minds, I guess, as best I can, I figure that even though we're at $1 million and we're at 300,000, that both may well settle for 450,000 or 500. I begin to try to shape that, move it toward there, and have been successful.
Did your experience in dealing with jurors during the time you were a judge, and seeing juries decide cases, did that help you? And do you
No question about it.
You tell the parties what you think a jury would do with a case?
I don't really generally go that far. I might suggest a figure, but when they specifically say, "What do you think a jury?" I give them brackets. I think that they'll have this between 200 and 300,000, or between 40 and 60, or whatever, and try to at least get them into shaping something that's going to be reasonable if they're going to settle it. Now, just like I tell you or anybody else, I can't tell you how this trial's going to turn out. You've got to, I pump in not only my experience, but I've also got to pump in the lawyers involved. If there's a lawyer, if there's a grade A and a grade C, that's a pump in. If there's a grade A and A, that's a pump in. You've got to, those things have got to be considered. I try my best to get involved with the plaintiff, who's usually there, and find out what that plaintiff is, how saleable that item is. Is that going to be somebody that is going to make that jury want to just race in there and give them some money, or is it somebody that's going to be a smart ass and turn them off? So
I want to take you back, Judge, a little bit to your days on the bench, but also from your experience on the bench, and ask you the question about the use of the jury system. Are you a supporter of the jury system?
I'm still an avid supporter of the jury system. I know of nothing that I can think of that would be better. On the other hand, it does bother me, and it bothered me many times down there to have cases that became almost entirely racist. I had a case that we tried, I'm not sure whether it's this firm or not, it may have been, involving WREG and a black woman, and the issue was whether WREG had prevented her from being displayed to the world when they promised her they wouldn't display her when she was telling about her rape. We had tried it 2 times at least, maybe 3, and in each case it broke down black, white, and finally, as I remember, I told them, here's the figure, settle it for this, and they settled it for something, and I never saw it again. But that's rare, but in every case where a black plaintiff and white defendant, they'll play that race card right on down the line. There's no question that they're settling cases in part by race involvement. I mean, this is slowly but surely becoming Namibia or something. I mean, you know, and that's got to be considered if you're a defendant and you've got a plaintiff that is a nice black, and they have an edge in the jury system if they get the usual mix of jurors. They'll get unanimous black, and it'll be a matter now of just persuading the white people that they're entitled to it.
But for those cases, what do you think of the jury system?
But for those cases here in Memphis, the decisions were generally very, very close to what I thought they'd be. I changed 2 verdicts, I think, the whole time. I cut one about, I've forgotten, 200,000 because I thought that they injected race too much in a jury that was loaded with race, and they gave too much. I just think that they just gave them too much. They didn't appeal it, and gone. And then I gave another case where they gave the medical bills, and a case where the medical bills, the pain and suffering, if they didn't have any pain, they shouldn't have had any medical bills. And I threw them a bone and said, well, they should have gotten a little more for chiropractic. It was chiropractor stuff. And I said, well, if you didn't believe they hurt, they shouldn't have been going to the chiropractor. So if the chiropractor's bills are good, they ought to get something, not much, but something for pain and suffering. So I gave them a little. But that was really just to maybe to let that insurance company, that particular insurance company, the old Tennessee Farmers, that they shouldn't appeal every case to circuit court, that they should accept the verdict down in sessions from time to time. You know what I mean? 2 ways to skin a cat sometimes.
Judge, you were appointed to the circuit bench, and then you were elected twice after that. What do you think about the system of appointing judges versus electing judges?
Well, I think I want to see every judge elected once. I don't care at what position, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, or I don't particularly think that if a person is elected by the people, that they have to be elected every time. It's almost a foregone conclusion. We've lost, I think, 1, maybe 2 over the years, and there's a reason for that. But my view is that Supreme Court judges, Court of Appeals judges, they don't have any business running. That demeans their office to me. But they should be elected once. If they are elected, they should, when the time comes, if they're appointed, then when the time comes, they need to run. And that gives everybody a shot at them. And if there's anybody that wants to get up on their high horse, take them on, that gives them that opportunity. But once they're elected, they then stay, and it'd be a stay or not stay. And if you want them out, you have to get out and work and have a good enough reason to throw them aside.
You're based on your times when you were actually running for election. What do you think the general public attitude is then and today about lawyers and also about judges?
Well, happily, I never had to run with opposition. After I was appointed, of course, I went in twice more, 8 years each. But there was no opposition, thank goodness, because I had just worn out with opposition. In fact, I was out, I think, in Reno one of the times they had the campaign, the election. I had called to see whether I'd done as good as I hoped I'd do with the unopposed group. I don't like judicial elections. There's one going on now, and I don't feel good about it. I'm not saying anything good or bad about either one of the two candidates. They're out there. But it's hard for me to drive down a road, which I did last night, and see signs all the way down on the posts, which is illegal, saying elect so-and-so circuit judge. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. When I was running for mayor, if anybody put a sign up on anything illegally, that person was out of my campaign. I mean, I just didn't stand for that. And here these people are. Maybe one of both. And they've got signs in yards, signs on the right-of-way, signs on the expressway. What is that? I mean, that's that's putting your thumbs down on the law, and you're going to go in there to be a judge. Being qualified to be a judge is one thing, but I don't think you're qualified to be a judge if you can't follow the least law, and that is just don't put any signs on property that's owned by the city.
There's been a lot of, talk in the media about how low the practicing lawyer is in the minds of the public. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't think they're low. They're kind of like congressional representatives. Everybody's lawyer is okay, but there's a lot of scalawags out there, and I think that's always been the case. I'm a great lover of Shakespeare, as I say. I'm a great lover of Dickens. Both of them had a lot of bad things to say about lawyers, and maybe some of them were well placed. Leak House is one of my favorite books in the world, and of course it's a condemnation of the whole Chancery Court, which of course is our probate court system. Millions of dollars in an estate down the drain, and you get a canary cage at the last. Everything's gone in lawyers' fees and court costs. They are down. They're down somewhere in the used car lot people at times. And yet, without lawyers and without good lawyers, grass would grow in the streets and blood would run in the gutters. I mean, there is no profession in the world that comes close to the necessity of being a lawyer or having laws. Survival of the fittest would wipe out everybody, and property would mean nothing. The law is the top of the heap, and I think people recognize it, but they're an easy group to condemn. They're not organized to come fight every time somebody gets on this soapbox and talks about how they're trying to steal everybody. And then you get these $40 billion verdicts, and everybody, well, see, that's crazy. And it is crazy. In fact, it's crazy to me to give $1. I was a 4-pack-a-day smoker, and probably had my heart taken out and laid on my chest because of it. I hadn't sued anybody about it, because the time I first smoked that first cigarette, I assumed the risk, whatever it was. That's the way I look at it.
Judge, you've got some grandchildren now. If one of them came to you and said, I'm thinking about being a lawyer, what would you tell them?
In fact, I have one that is a senior at St. Mary's. It's Johnny's child, and I think she is interested in being a lawyer. And I told her, what can I do to help? I want her to be a lawyer. I'd be proud to have her be a lawyer and continue the Chandler tradition.
Judge, we've been going a couple of hours, and I'm about ready to close. Is there anything that you wish I had asked you, or is anything you want to talk about any phase of your life or the career that you've led through the years?
No, I can only say that not only would I ask anybody that wanted to be a lawyer, would I help them, would I give them all the guidance I could. I remember many lawyers have come to me through the years and talked about how Daddy got them started, how they started with Daddy, how he talked to them while they were going to college or wherever, or when they first became lawyers. He loved it. I've loved it. I think Johnny loves it. And I hope that I have one or more of my 8 grandchildren, 9 really now with my step-grandchild, that will go into the law. It is, as I say, it is such an honor to be vested with the vast power that a lawyer has, power in criminal cases, sometimes of life or death, and in the civil area to decide whether a person will be wiped out or be able to take care of themselves. It's as important a job as it can be given, and it's been an honor for me to have been a lawyer every day of my career.
Judge, you've had a full life, and you've had great success in a number of fields. The last question I have for you is, of all of that, what has been the most meaningful part of your life and career?
Well, that's difficult to say. I think probably my days on the bench and the days when I really got back and got ensconced and felt that I was at my peak. The last, say, 5 years that I was on the bench, when I think I could handle any case without a bat of an eye. I'd almost gotten the charges down in my head. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the lawyers, I enjoyed the fray, and the honor of being made the first presiding judge of the whole county in charge of the criminal and the chancery and the probate and the circuit. And those days, they were wonderful days to me. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I wouldn't have given it up, except I just felt like that it was time to move on to try my last go-round. I really had thought about going down to Florida, but as you may know, I've got a wife that's only about 55, and she said, no, you're going to stay right here. We're going to take care of this grandbaby. So here I am, and I've enjoyed my new profession a lot also.
Judge, your dad took on Baker versus Carr when he was your age.
That's right.
70 years old.
That's right. He lived to 80.
Is there a Baker versus Carr in your future?
I'm doubtful. I'd rather make a hole in one than get back into that type of battling again. He worked hard at it. He died, Al, the day he died, he was 80 years old, or he's 5 days away from being 80. I received a call from a black man that stayed with him and kind of helped him out. And he said, Mr. Walters passed. I ran over there, and on his chest, as he lay there was a advance sheet. He was still reading the law at 80 years old and preparing to go into the battle again. That's the kind of lawyer he was, and that's the kind of lawyer that I hope that I was during my career.
Judge, thank you so much for participating with us.
Thank you, Al. It was an honor.